Stop scrolling. This is not another motivational video you forget. Tomorrow, what you're about to hear might make you uncomfortable because it tells the truth you've been avoiding. Right now, your life looks the way it does for one reason, not luck, not people, not circumstance. One reason. You've been giving your attention to the wrong things. And before you disagree, let me ask you something. If someone followed you for a week, watched what you think about, what you react to, what you check first in the morning, would they be able to guess your goal? Or would they see distraction pretending to be ambition? Most people don't fail loudly. They fail quietly. They fail by watching. They fail by comparing. They fail by waiting to feel ready. And no one warns them that this is how it happens. You don't. Lose your future in one big mistake. You lose it in small moments of unfocused living, moments where you chose comfort over clarity, moments where you chose noise over direction. This video is not here to hype you up. It's here to wake you up. Because if you keep doing what you're doing right now, nothing changes. Same stress, same excuses, same regret, just louder. But if you stay until the end, you're going to see something clearly for the first time. Why discipline beats motivation, why comparison is secretly keeping you weak, and why focus feels lonely but changes everything. This is not for everyone. It's for the person who's tired of starting over, tired of watching others win, tired of knowing they're capable of more. If that's you, don't skip this, because the next few minutes might be the moment you stop drifting and finally take control. Let's talk about attention, because attention is not a soft concept, it is not motivational fluff, and it is not something you casually manage when life allows it. Attention is power in its most raw form. Whatever consistently holds your attention will eventually shape your thoughts, your decisions, and your identity. Most people don't fail because they lack intelligence or potential. They fail because they allow their attention to be rented out to things that give nothing back. Your mind is always being trained, whether you realize it or not. Every time you shift your focus away from your goal and toward someone else's life, you are reinforcing a habit of reaction instead of creation. You are telling your nervous system that external signals matter more than internal direction. Over time, that rewires how you think. You stop asking, what am I building? And start asking, how do I compare? That shift is subtle, but it's destructive. Psychologically, attention works like a spotlight. It doesn't illuminate everything at once, it selects. And whatever it selects becomes exaggerated. When your attention is locked onto your goal, obstacles look like problems to solve. When your attention is locked onto others, obstacles feel like proof that you are behind. The situation doesn't change. The interpretation does, and interpretation is what determines whether you move forward or shut down. Most people underestimate how exhausting divided attention really is. They think they are multitasking, staying informed, staying connected, but mentally, they are leaking energy in every direction. They wake up already reacting. Messages, opinions, updates, comparisons. By the time they sit down to do meaningful work, their mental bandwidth is gone. They don't lack discipline. They lack protected attention. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The world is not designed to help you focus. It is designed to compete for your attention. If you don't consciously decide what deserves your focus, everything else will decide for you. And the cost of that is not just productivity. The cost is clarity. When your attention is scattered, your thinking becomes shallow. You become busy, but not effective. Informed, but not wise. Stimulated, but not fulfilled. Philosophically, attention is how you assign meaning to your life. What you repeatedly look at, think about, and emotionally react to becomes what your life is about. If your attention is dominated by what others are doing, achieving, or showing, your life becomes a response to theirs. You are no longer the author of your story. You are a commentator on someone else's. Focus, real focus, is an act of self-respect. It is saying, my time has value. My energy has value. My life has direction. That doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending others don't exist. It means refusing to let external noise override internal priorities. It means understanding that you cannot think deeply and compare constantly at the same time. One requires presence, the other creates anxiety. When people say they feel stuck, what they often mean is that their attention is fragmented. They are thinking about 10 different futures and fully committing to none. They want results, but they are unwilling to narrow their focus long enough to earn them. Progress requires exclusion. Every meaningful yes is built on dozens of intentional no's. Look closely at anyone who has mastered a craft, built a business, or transformed their life. You'll notice something before you see confidence or talent. You'll see restraint. They don't react to everything. They don't chase every trend. They don't emotionally attach themselves to every comparison. They conserve attention like a scarce resource, because it is. Your brain follows your attention. If you constantly feed it distraction, it becomes restless. If you feed it comparison, it becomes insecure. If you feed it purpose, it becomes sharp. This is not motivation, this is conditioning. Over time, your dominant focus becomes your default state. And your default state determines how you show up when things get hard. There's also a moral dimension to focus that most people ignore. When you say you want something but refuse to give it your full attention, you are lying to yourself, not with words, but with behavior. Attention is how you tell the truth about what matters to you. If your goal truly mattered, it would show up in what you protect, what you return to, and what you are willing to ignore. You don't need more time. You need fewer distractions. You don't need to know what everyone else is doing. You need to know what deserves your next hour. Focus is not about intensity, it's about consistency. Small, repeated acts of directed attention compound into clarity, skill, and confidence the moment you stop monitoring others and start measuring yourself against your own standard. Something shifts. Pressure turns into direction. Anxiety turns into action. You stop asking for permission and start taking responsibility. That's when progress stops feeling chaotic and starts feeling deliberate. So if there is one thing to take from this, let it be this. Your attention is your life in miniature. Spend it wisely, guard it fiercely, and aim it deliberately. Because the life you want is built quietly, patiently, and almost invisibly by what you choose to focus on every single day. Let's talk about comparison, because comparison is one of the most socially accepted forms of self-sabotage. It doesn't announce itself as weakness. It doesn't feel destructive at first. In fact, it often feels intelligent, even responsible. You tell yourself you're just observing, just learning, just staying aware. But slowly, quietly, comparison shifts from information to fixation. And the moment that happens, your progress begins to decay. Psychologically, comparison hijacks your internal compass. Instead of evaluating your actions based on your values, your goals, and your stage of growth, you begin measuring yourself against external reference points that were never designed for you. Different timelines, different advantages, different sacrifices, different starting points. Yet your brain ignores all of that. It only registers one message: you are behind. That message, repeated often enough, becomes an identity. What makes comparison especially dangerous is that it disguises itself as motivation. You see someone succeeding and you tell yourself it pushes you to do more. But motivation driven by comparison is unstable. It doesn't produce clarity, it produces pressure. And pressure without direction doesn't lead to progress. It leads to anxiety, hesitation, and eventually avoidance. Philosophical comparison is a refusal to accept the uniqueness of your own path. It's the belief that there is one correct pace, one acceptable outcome, one visible definition of success. But life doesn't work that way. Growth is not linear, and success is not standardized. The moment you borrow someone else's measuring stick, you invalidate your own journey. You turn a personal mission into a public performance. Here's the part most people don't want to hear. Comparison is comfortable. It gives you something to focus on without demanding responsibility. It allows you to stay mentally busy while remaining physically inactive. You can analyze, critique, admire, or resent someone else's progress instead of confronting the harder question: what am I avoiding in my own life right now? Comparison becomes a shield. If you convince yourself The others are too far ahead, too lucky, too gifted. You don't have to fully commit. You don't have to risk failure. You don't have to test your limits. And the mind prefers safety over truth if you let it. There's also a neurological cost. Constant comparison keeps your nervous system in a state of alert. You are always scanning, evaluating, ranking. That state is incompatible with deep work, creativity, and long-term thinking. Your brain cannot build and defend at the same time. When you compare, you defend your ego. When you focus, you build your future. You have to choose. Another overlooked truth is that comparison flattens complexity. You don't compare your behind the scenes with someone else's full reality. You compare your doubts, fatigue, and uncertainty with their visible results. That distortion creates unnecessary shame. And shame is not a motivator. Shame narrows thinking. It makes people quit silently. When you internalize comparison, you stop asking useful questions. Instead of asking, "What skill do I need to develop?" you ask, "Why am I not there yet?" Instead of asking, "What's my next step?" you ask, "What's wrong with me?" Those questions don't lead to solution. They lead to self-doubt. The irony is that the people you compare yourself to are rarely thinking about you at all. They are consumed by their own pressures, insecurities, and unfinished goals. Yet you give them free rent in your mind. You let their